Welcome to the Great Basin Prescribed Fire and Smoke Transport Briefing for Monday, October 28th. As a reminder, we are transitioning out of our fire season webcasts into our smoke transport briefings, which will be published every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Over the last 14 days, we've seen precipitation across mainly Nevada and Utah, which has been above normal for some areas, but any precipitation in the north has generally been below normal. Over the last 72 hours, we've seen a little bit of new snow up in central Idaho, and you can see our snow depth there on the right, which is not very much for this time of year. It is, however, above normal for this time of year in parts of the higher elevations of Utah and even parts of southwest Idaho, but for much of central and eastern Idaho into Wyoming and the Sierra, below normal for the time of year. Looking at our satellite picture, we have a deep trough moving into the west coast. This will push a cold front through the region today and tomorrow and bring much colder temperatures and areas of both low elevation rain showers and high elevation snow showers. So for later today, as that trough moves in, we will see precipitation increasing across the north, and we are seeing some spotty showers even down into western Nevada. That will continue tracking eastward. Our dispersion will be quite good, as we'll see some breezy winds, especially some gusty winds across parts of Utah into southern areas of the Great Basin. And you can see those transport winds strongest over the southern and eastern half of the region, where we will see wind gusts above 40 or 50 miles per hour in some areas, and otherwise high mixing heights. Temperatures today, you can see a stark contrast behind the cold front, where we'll see highs in the 40s and 50s, and ahead of the cold front with highs in the 60s or down into the 70s in the far south. Otherwise, relative humidity will be elevated in most, if not all areas, as that cold front moves through. By tomorrow, the cold front sweeps through much of the Great Basin, is located from the northern Rockies down into eastern areas of the basin, with those showers tracking further east across Utah into eastern Idaho and Wyoming. There are some winter weather advisories out for the higher terrain of the eastern half of the Great Basin. We could see anywhere from 6 to 12 inches or more in some of those higher terrain areas of Utah up into western Wyoming. You can see dispersion remains good. Otherwise, behind the cold front, we'll see breezy winds across most areas of the Great Basin with the exception of the far west, but mixing heights remain high as the system moves through. And temperatures drop region-wide by Tuesday behind the cold front, with highs mainly in the 40s in the lower elevations and up into the 30s and maybe even some 20s in the higher elevations. These temperatures will run about 10 to 15 degrees below normal for the time of year. Otherwise, high humidity generally region-wide, and even down in southern Nevada, we'll see relative humidity 15 to 20%. On Wednesday, this first front sweeps through, and we do have another trough of low pressure that will be moving in later in the week and over the weekend. Otherwise, temperatures will bounce back a little bit, but still remain below normal through this week. Dispersion will decrease over southern and eastern areas of the Great Basin as that ridge moves in and winds die off. And you can see that from the transport winds, very light flow over the southern and eastern half of the Great Basin, but winds already starting to pick up in advance of this next trough over far northwest Nevada and parts of central and southwest Idaho. Otherwise, mixing heights remain high. Temperatures, again, bounce back a little bit, especially over western areas with highs mostly in the upper 40s to low to mid 50s, still hanging on to cooler temperatures over western Wyoming and central and eastern Utah. And again, as that ridge builds in with warming temperatures, we will see R rates drop a little bit, but generally remaining above 18 to 20%. 3-day precipitation as this cold front moves through will be heaviest across Utah into western Wyoming, which is where most of those winter weather advisories are located. Snow levels will be dropping down to around 5,000 feet, so we will see snow lower down in the landscape in Utah. Otherwise, very spotty light showers in Idaho and Nevada, but most areas at least getting some cloud cover, higher humidity, and at least some light amounts of precipitation. As we move into Thursday, the next trough quickly moves in, so we'll start to see some clouds increasing along with some winds increasing in Idaho and Nevada. And then by Friday, the cold front moves into central areas, and by Saturday swings through, but we do have another cold area of low pressure dropping south later in the weekend for another reinforcing shot of colder air and showers going into Sunday into next week. Otherwise, precipitation for days 4 and 5, you can see here, increasing over northern areas going into the Thursday through Friday time period with that next trough. And then by later in the weekend, that precipitation drops south. And the 7-day total precipitation, again, good amounts for most mountain areas of central Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah, and even into the Sierra. Otherwise, the 8 to 14-day outlook from November 4th through the 10th shows warmer and drier conditions We will continue to see those troughs move through over the next 7 days, but then potentially a drier period after that heading into the first full week of November. That concludes the webcast for today. Check back on Wednesday for the latest updates.